Hi students, happy Monday. I'm almost finished grading your graded problem set 2, and while I'm finishing that up I wanted to take this time to make a video to talk about something, and I'm going to show you some examples. One thing that Julia doesn't emphasize quite as much in her videos is putting units and labeling everything, and the reason that's really important to me is I worked as a statistical analyst at Saturn, helping design cars when they used to make Saturn cars. I still drive one and I'll drive it till it dies. But I learned that communication is a really important part of statistics. We can never assume that anyone understands what we're doing, right? Hardly anyone understands statistics. So communication is just as important as the actual calculations. So every statistic has units, and we want to be sure to label that because that just helps people understand what we're talking about. You know, is the median 50 points, or is it 50 meters or 50 miles? And then also adding in the context. So your written problem sets were really good. I made a lot of comments about labeling units and labeling graphs and things like that. And then I want to show you something which I didn't think of this beforehand, but I have a website that I use as a resource for my face-to-face classes, and I have a whole set of statistics notes on here from my face-to-face classes. So if you ever find that useful, it's an additional resource for you. So the URL is just caraleemath.com, and I'll put a link to this in the D2L shell somewhere. Maybe under resources, and you can either click on Math 243 here, or you can scroll down to 243, and then this just gives you an additional set of class notes. You'll see that Julia's and my notes are very similar, even identical in some places. But what I wanted to show you is just another example of writing out that paragraph. So I'm going to go, there's a blank packet and a completed one for each version. And you can see this even looks really similar to what you did with Julia. So here's one example of a paragraph. Bear with me while I scroll all the way down. Okay, so this was a test score data, some fictitious test scores, and we want to include the context and also the units on all of our statistics. So, and of course, this is not just the only way to write it. You can use your own words to some degree as long as you get the key points in here. But something like the distribution of the test scores is unimodal and skewed to the left. The median test score is 82 points and the IQR is 24 points. So I'm putting the units on each statistic, and in this case there was one score that was an outlier at 31 points. So by saying score, that helps the reader again be like, oh yeah, we're talking about scores and these are points. And so here we've got the 4 parts to the paragraph. We've got the shape, so unimodal, and then if it's skewed left, skewed right, or symmetric. And then because it's skewed, we talk about the median and the IQR. And then we talk about any unusual features. Okay, so we've got the context in there with the test scores, and then we've got the units. Let me show you one more example of a symmetric one that's in this packet here. Here's some calculation of standard deviation. I think this is all the way at the end. Okay, yes. So here is some data about the number of chocolate chips in those little Keebler chocolate chip cookies. So there's 34 chocolate chip cookies, and someone dissected them or ate them or somehow counted the chocolate chips in the cookies. Okay, so I've got the summary statistics here, and then I've got the paragraph. Be sure when you do your graphs, you write the context down below and the units. Also, frequency is the vertical axis on a histogram. I'm using this label down here for both of these graphs. And there is no vertical scale on a box plot. It's just really a one-dimensional graph. Okay, so, oh shoot, I have to move my recording window down here. Okay, here is the paragraph. The distribution of the number of chocolate chips per cookie in the Chips Ahoy brand, oh, I think that was Keebler, my mistake, I'll fix that, is unimodal and symmetric. The mode is 30 to 31 chips per cookie. The mean is 30.4 chips and the median is 30 chips. This also indicates symmetry because all three measures of center are very close. The standard deviation is 3.4 chips, and there are 5 outliers, which are cookies with 24, 24, 37, 37, and 38 chips. There's a gap in the data with no cookies having 36 chips. So there's a little bit of extra in here. Really what's required is the shape, center, spread, and unusual features. But sometimes you're not sure, like, oh, it's slightly symmetric or slightly, mostly symmetric or slightly skewed. Oops, sorry about that. So this one we can see from the graph is pretty symmetric, but we might want to compare the mode, the mean, and the median, and if they're all pretty close, that's evidence that it is symmetric. And then when it's symmetric, we want to report the mean and the standard deviation. So that's why we always do the shape first, because that determines which statistics we give. And then you can see the context in here, and then the units on all of the statistics. Okay, so I hope that helps you as you're doing write-up 3, which is due today. I'm going to grade, I'm not going to take off points right now for this labeling because this is wasn't really emphasized prior to the assignment. So for write-up 2 and 3, I'm going to go easy on that, and then it'll just be a small amount of points later on. But be sure you get in the habit of starting to label your scales, your units, and your context. The reason why this is so important to me from Saturn is I took over for someone who had left the position, and there was this whole file drawer of reports, graphs, charts, things that the person in my job had done, but nothing was labeled. Like they didn't have the date of the study, they didn't have the units or the just the pertinent, the scale on the graph. It was pretty much all that stuff was useless because I couldn't read it or understand what it meant. So that's one reason why it's really, really important to label everything, and just to help our audience understand what we're doing. That's a really important part of statistics. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. As usual, I'm around today, and my office hours are from 4 to 5 p.m. today. Okay, hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.